this is a free service from every state. Number one, do not pay to get your unclaimed funds back. That is totally unnecessary. That's one big pitfall. And I find that since the government itself, by law, they're supposed to tell you that you have unclaimed funds, but honestly, I hardly ever see it. In practice, I hardly ever see it happen. So I would say, yeah, do not pay for a service to get your unclaimed funds and just make sure to look yourself. And it shouldn't be that difficult.
Welcome to Financially Ever After Widowhood, the podcast where we empower women to take control of their financial future after the loss of a spouse. I'm your host, Stacy Francis, President and CEO of Francis Financial, an award-winning and nationally recognized financial advisory firm. With the help of incredible guests, I'm ready to guide you through this challenging transition. Our guest today is David Silversmith. He is not only a CPA and accountant, but he's also a certified financial planner. His passion is helping widows and widowers with their finances. And how he does that is through tax planning for estate and estate planning, as well as helping them gain access to unclaimed funds. David knows what he's talking about. He's written over 14 articles that have appeared in highly thought of and respected accounting journals. He attended the University of Maryland at College Park and has his MBA from New York University. He is a thought leader in this area, an expert, and I can guarantee that this is a podcast that is going to add money to your pocket. But make sure you stay to the end because David shares some pitfalls that he has seen individuals fall into, costing them thousands and unfortunately robbing them of the unclaimed funds that they are due. So without further ado, please help me welcome David to our podcast today, Financially Ever After Widowhood, to learn more about this free money that you can claim for yourself or a loved one or even a deceased partner or parents. So David, I am so excited to have you here talking about a topic that is all about free money.
Yeah.
Free money. Who doesn't love free money? It's great to have you here.
Yeah, 1 in 7 people have unclaimed funds, believe it or not.
1 in 7 people. That is a huge number. How much money are we talking about here?
I would say in New York alone has over $18 billion in unclaimed funds. Okay,
and when you say unclaimed funds, tell me more about what is unclaimed funds? What is that? Where does this money come from?
Uncashed checks, or if you got a gift certificate that you never used up, it can go to unclaimed funds. I'll give you a story about my grandmother. After she passed away, she owned stock in AIG. Now, after she passed away, we moved all the money out of her financial accounts. But after we moved all the money out of her financial accounts, AIG issued a dividend that went into her financial account. No one ever told us. A couple years later, I look up her name. There she is on the unclaimed funds list.
Wow.
This happens to people all the time. It can be anything from life insurance proceeds, refunds. In your case, a lot of times it's Staples wrote you a check that you apparently never cashed. So that went to unclaimed funds. A lot of times it's estates, proceeds from estates. I know in New York, the largest unclaimed fund is $9.2 million for an estate. Now think about that. That means somewhere somebody's owed $9.2 million and they don't even know it.
That's unbelievable. And so things that could be, a check that was sent to you by your employer that you didn't cash, or maybe even a pension.
Or maybe you moved and
maybe you moved.
Right. And you didn't update your address with everyone. So you got a refund on your security deposit or a utility bill. And 70% of claims are less than $100. But even so, it's still free money.
Yeah, no, it is. Could this be even like a tax refund that you didn't receive, or like a stimulus check?
Absolutely. I've seen people 10, 15 years ago, they moved, their refund check went to their old address, and they never cashed it. Now it's sitting in unclaimed funds.
Wow. And so it could be like in your case with your grandmother, it could be investments. It could be maybe even saving bonds that have stopped earning interest that
Absolutely.
have matured.
There's also, aside from each state having their own Department of Unclaimed Funds, the Treasury Department also has a department specifically for unclaimed U.S. savings bonds that have matured that are no longer earning interest. And again, I found plenty of people. All you have to do there is put in your social security number and bam, it pops up.
And for all of you listening, we're going to be putting these great resources in the show notes.
Mhm.
So for those savings bonds, it's treasuryhunt.gov, G-O-V. We will make sure that we put that in there. For your tax refund, there's also a link called Where's My Refund? It's a search tool. We'll also put in, there's a way to search if you're, unclaimed funds for even like the VA Veteran Affairs database or FHA. If you had a FHA insured mortgage, you can search the HUD database. So there's a lot of great places. We're going to put all of these links because I'm thinking too of things that I should be checking. And this is, I have to tell you, David, such a timely topic because this morning I was opening the mail and looked at a very like nondescript, very plain piece of mail that I actually thought was junk mail, but I opened it anyway. And it turned out $457 made up to me. And it turns out that a company that we had money actually had paid for doggy daycare,
Mhm.
AKC, they had gone bankrupt years ago. And this was a check made out to me to reimburse us for the money we lost in this doggy daycare. Essentially, they had a balance for us, right? So that they would, have a balance. And every day that our doggy would go, they would take from that balance and then you'd have to re-up and refill it. So it was a wonderful way to start off the day, 450 some dollars richer, which
Yes.
I'm like, this is a really good day. And I don't normally read my horoscopes, but I was really bored yesterday.
Mhm.
And it said your money situation may change. Now, obviously, I was thinking we'd win the lottery, but that's okay. But I'll take the $450. But so from a bankruptcy too, is that
Mhm.
right?
Oh, yes. Bankruptcy proceeds, class action proceeds are a big one. A lot
Okay,
of
tell me what
times,
a class action proceed is. Like, and would you know about this? Would you have had to fill out paperwork?
most people, when they're participant in a class action lawsuit, they have to fill out paperwork. A lot of times, I think you've probably gotten something in the mail saying,
Oh, yeah.
"Oh, you
Our clients get these all the time,
yes."
right?
And sometimes they'll fill out something, but they don't think about anything. They don't think about it, and these take years to
Yeah.
resolve. And by that time, maybe you've moved, maybe you've forgotten about it, and then they send out a check to you, and maybe you're not there. Maybe you thought it was junk mail and you tore it up. So if that happens, it goes to your state's unclaimed funds website.
Yeah. And gosh, with inflation, with everything that we've gone
Mm-hmm.
through, these are fun. Tell me a little bit. Again, everybody knows in the show notes some places where you can go directly to see, but tell me about the master database of unclaimed funds and how someone can go on there and check for either their name or a child, even or a
Mm-hmm.
spouse.
Each state has their own unclaimed funds department. The website that lists each state's unclaimed funds department is unclaimed.org. From there, they have a map. You just click on the map, and then
To your state.
yes, and they also have Quebec, Alberta, Kenya. Apparently has unclaimed funds department also. There's also a website called missingmoney.com, which allows you to search multiple states at once.
Because that was actually going to be my next question. So I went on, and for all of you listening, David was so kind. He actually found some unclaimed funds for me. So I'm so excited. But I went on just because I was curious, and I live in New York City, but I also lived in Vermont for college, and I lived in Michigan for the first 18 years of my life.
Hmm.
So I went to that www.unclaimed.org, and then I went to Michigan. I went to Vermont. I went to New York. And so it sounds like missingmoney.com, David, that you can use that and it will actually search across states for you.
Not all the states, but a lot.
A lot
Some
of them.
states are more pickier. They don't want their department linked to missing money. I think what happens is a lot of the states, some states are stingier than others when it comes to returning money, and a lot of them want you to provide a proof of your former address. Now, if you've lived someplace 20, 25 years ago, that can be very difficult. I
Yeah.
found that the best way to prove your former address is to get a copy of your credit report. That will have every place you've ever lived. And if your address is listed on the unclaimed fund sites, listed on your credit report.
That's a great idea. And so for all of you listening, how do you get that copy of your credit report? You can go to Experian. You can go to
No, go to annualcreditreport.com.
Oh, okay, so
That's where
actually
you
go to
get
the annual
your,
credit and pull the actual credit report. So,
yes,
um,
everybody should be checking their credit report anyway. But there you get one free credit report a year from the 3 credit bureaus.
yep, so annualcreditreport.com. And as you mentioned, there's no cost to that. And then you can choose, you'll be able to get one of those 3 or all
Mm-hmm.
3 if you like. What we recommend to our clients is to do that at least once a year. I mean, ideally, what we try and do is every 4 months go there and pull one just to see, make sure that there's nothing fraudulent, making sure that there's nothing to be worried about. And there's no negative because when you're pulling and you're getting your credit report, it doesn't hurt your credit. I feel like there's a myth out there,
Right.
David, that people worry that if I go and get my credit report, if I pull that, that it's going to hurt my score. The things that might hurt your score is, let's say you apply for a mortgage, right? And you receive that mortgage, or you open a few store credit cards. Like those would be examples, but that's not what you're doing. You're just getting your report about you that you are legally entitled to.
What's even more dangerous is when you have your identity stolen and then they're checking your credit report every 10, 50 times. That'll hurt your credit report. It hurts
Yeah.
your credit score even more than that. So,
Yeah. All right. So great news. I think that our minds have definitely been expanded to not only know like what unclaimed funds are, but all the amazing options of how this might actually be pertaining to you. We've got some great resources, unclaimed.org, missingmoney.com. And then if you need to prove that you've lived at an address, I love that shortcut of going and getting your credit report at annualcreditreport.com. And I want to go down that line, David. So when I went through the process with Staples, it didn't look like it was making it super easy for me. Tell me about the cases for certain states where it's very easy to put in a claim and maybe an example of like what it might ask. And then the other states where I'll use that word, kind of stingy with their money of not wanting to return money back to you. What loops in that situation you might have to jump through to make that happen? So let's start with the easy first.
easy one. I found New York to be easier than most because a lot of times they'll just list what you need and
Hmm.
what they want. For some states, I found New Jersey to be stingier than others. And a lot of times I'll just call up the unclaimed funds department and say, hey, what do you need? What can I give you? I've given you this, this, this. What else do you need? And for New Jersey, they can be a bit tough. When I called them once, they wanted the original documents that were unclaimed. They wanted the original check that wasn't cashed. I said, if I had that,
I would have cashed it.
I would have cashed it.
Yeah.
But I think if you're persistent enough, they will give you back your money. I mean, it is yours.
Yeah.
Or if you're the heir, it's still yours anyway.
David, is there a point where that money gets turned over to the state for their use?
Legally, I don't think so. Because I've seen unclaimed accounts that are as old as, say, 40 years.
Oh, wow. Okay. Got it.
But I think for some different types of accounts, I don't think any state publicizes this, but I think there is at some point where it sheets to the state. So that's why I look up everybody's account. Anytime I get a new client, I look it up as soon as I get it.
Yeah.
And I say, if find unclaimed money that you're owed, don't wait on this. Get it as soon as possible. Again, every state has their own set of laws also. And depending on the financial condition of that state, they might not want to give you back your money. So,
Yeah. And David, you have talked about an estate or someone that's been then passed away. This is financially ever after widowhood. So a lot of the people who are listening, unfortunately, their partner, their spouse has passed away. Can they do the unclaimed funds search for assets or checks, maybe even for parents that have passed away as well?
yes. I would say the easiest thing is if you're listed on the death certificate, the unclaimed funds department, the controller's department here in New York, they're going to want at the very least a death certificate just to prove that the person is deceased. And then if you're hopefully the best document possible to have is the letters testamentary. That's when your person's estate goes through probate and the person listed as the executor can show that they are in control of the person's estate. If not, if the person had a will, that would be really helpful also. But at the very least, you want the death certificate.
Okay. And typically, if the estate is still open, then those unclaimed funds get reimbursed to the estate and then distributed to the heirs as listed in the will.
Actually, no, it can go straight to the heirs.
It can go straight to the heirs.
Yes. For example, in my grandfather's case, he had, after he died, he got a refund from the DMV in Florida, which went to unclaimed funds. And when we claimed it, it went straight to my father and my uncle. Got split up. They just had to show them the paperwork.
Okay.
And went straight
Got
to
it.
them.
Okay. Interesting. So it sounds like in certain cases, it's pretty straightforward. So can we talk about those other situations where it might be a little harder to actually get the unclaimed funds?
Yes. Well, a lot of times if somebody dies without a will, a lot of times they'll go to the public administrator's office. And I've done unclaimed funds with that as well. Have you ever worked with the public administrator's office?
I have not, but it sounds intimidating, David.
Oh, yeah. I know each county in New York has their own public administrator's office. That's where people who die with no will, or no estate planning documents. And then from there, it's up to the public administrator. The public administrator becomes the executor of the estate, and it's up to them to get the unclaimed funds. It's really their responsibility.
Okay.
But you have to get the letters testamentary or some type of estate document that shows that you are either entitled to the funds or you're the heir or you're the executor. That is where it can be very tough. And again, for this person who's waiting on $9.2 million, I guarantee you that estate probably did not have a will or heirs.
Got it. Is there ever a situation where you have to have like a notarized document or?
Yes, New York wants their claims notarized. Some states do, some states don't. But the claims itself have to be notarized. I know if you have unclaimed savings bonds, those also have to be notarized. But notaries, I think at the very least, they're not hard to come by.
Yeah,
that's
so
the easy part of the process.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we've talked a little bit about how you file a claim for a deceased person and kind of a little bit of the easy situations and not so easy. Do you have any words of recommendations or like pitfalls, mistakes that you've seen made?
Oh yes, number one.
Oh yes, okay.
A lot of times people will get mail and these services will charge money for getting your unclaimed funds back.
Really?
Do not pay for that. This is a free service from every state. Number one, do not pay to get your unclaimed funds back. That is totally unnecessary. That's one big pitfall. And I find that since the government itself, by law, they're supposed to tell you that you have unclaimed funds, but honestly, I hardly ever see it. In practice, I hardly ever see it happen. So I would say, do not pay for a service to get your unclaimed funds and just make sure to look yourself. And it shouldn't be that difficult.
Yeah. I think that it's really powerful, especially for someone who has just lost their spouse. That money is more important than ever and is really very needed. And that's a situation where there's so many things in flux. I'm thinking about from my father. He passed away pretty recently, and my stepmom is moving
Mm-hmm.
from their home. We put it on the market. It sold within 24 hours, and they really wanted to be able to move in within about 2 weeks. I mean, this is all moving quite quickly. And so, of course, there's the mail forwarding and everything that we've put in place, but that doesn't always catch everything. And so I have a feeling that there's going to be something coming to their
Mm-hmm.
old home. And I mean, things just happen, right? And the other thing that I'm finding, there's more mail fraud where someone maybe never does get a check. And it's interesting, David, I sent out 250 thank you notes right before Christmas. And they were thank you notes to people who had donated or supported Savvy Ladies, which is the charity I started so many years ago. And in it, I put a piece of paper that showed the impact of how many women that we have helped, the work that we're doing, and so powerful. It just as another way of thank you. But when someone looked at that envelope, it had all these beautiful, cute little hearts that said thank you. You felt it, and you could feel there was that piece of paper inside, but they didn't know. So the number of letters that either got delivered that were kind of ripped in half or ripped open, or got returned to me that were ripped in half. Because what people were doing is they were going through
Mm-hmm.
hoping that there was a gift card or a check. So I think that even if you check your mail, even if you are not moving, that sometimes things don't get to you in the mail.
For New York State, once they issue a claim, they usually send you an email saying this is your claim number. It's just been mailed out. Please expect it. And I would say if it doesn't come within 4 to 6 weeks, to check with the controller's department, say, hey, what happened to my claim?
Any other words of advice? I know we're kind of wrapping up and you've given so much information
Mhm.
to
I,
everyone here.
I would say don't wait. Go now. Go. If you live in New York, go right now to the New York State Controller's Department website and just look for your name. Also, go to the Treasury Department. You said the website before, Treasury, put in your social security number and see if you're owed anything. And there can be a lot of other places. I know, for example, the Screen Actors Guild has a lot of unclaimed residuals for actors.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yes.
I was actually just watching the Screen Actors Guild Award ceremony last
Mm-hmm.
night. For the first year ever, they streamed it on Netflix. And so you actually got to watch it live. It was really kind of interesting. But I can see because there's, what, thousands of members,
Mm-hmm.
and you're getting residuals when your commercial airs again or whatever that
Mm-hmm.
might be, but you maybe didn't give a forwarding address to this to
Mm-hmm.
SAG. So
There's also for veterans, also a lot of veterans life insurance policies that they keep at the Department of Veterans Affairs website. There's a
yep.
place where you can search that as well. So,
So I will be searching a lot of these as
mhm.
well. Thank you so much. This is absolutely wonderful. And David, how do our listeners reach out to you and get a hold of you? And what states are there certain states that you can work with, or can you work with, our
I
listeners
work
calling in
with
from all
all
over?
50. I work with all 50 and Puerto Rico and everywhere. If you want to email me, my email address is david.silversmith@eisneramper.com. I'm easy to find also on LinkedIn if you want.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really love helping people get their money. I don't know. It just irks me that people have money sitting with the government and the government really doesn't do much.
Yeah.
And I love just returning money to people like this. Makes me feel like Santa Claus.
Yeah.
So
I love it. And you are an accountant. You're
yes.
also a certified financial planner. Do you want to just talk a little bit about your practice? I mean, this is one piece, right? It's a service that you give to your clients, but
Mhm.
boy, you do a whole lot more than that.
Oh yes, I do a lot of. I'm a CPA. My practice is mainly in individuals, trusts, and estates. And in New York, there's a lot of estates. As I've also worked with the public administrator's office. That's a whole other chapter in itself. And I work at the Eisner Advisory Group, and we do tax planning, tax prep, audits, everything you can think of related to taxes. I've been practicing for over 2 decades now. And I would say also, I recommend this everybody, make a will. You don't
Yeah.
want your estate going to the public administrator's office because that can be a nightmare. And I would say most people, if you think you just have a simple estate, you can go on one of those websites like Legals. I don't know if we're allowed to recommend websites, but I did my will in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So, because I'm leaving
to have something, right? Something is better than nothing. And David, I think that that's such a good place to end. And I just want to say thank you so much. And for all of you listening, if you were driving or jogging, don't worry. All of David's information is going to be in show notes, his email, his LinkedIn, so that you can contact him to find out if you can work with him. Maybe it's filing an estate tax return or a gift tax return, or maybe it's just doing some tax planning in, overall for your estate and your life. David's someone that can definitely help you with that. And on top of it, get a bonus of helping you understand you have some unclaimed funds due to you.
Mm-hmm.
I can't thank you enough. This is such an interesting topic and so wonderful. It's like getting, again, it's like free money. That just gets me really excited. That's yours, that's just sitting there waiting for you.
Yeah, I just always think of like New York has $18 billion in unclaimed funds. Just imagine what it could do to the economy.
I know, right?
If they
$18 billion.
I think every year they return about 400 million, but they take in twice that amount. Just imagine if in 1 year they were able to return like $2 or $3 billion. What that would do to the New York economy. I think it would be incredible.
It'd be so great.
Yeah.
And people who maybe didn't need it could donate it, right?
To savvy ladies.
Well, so it could be that. I don't want to push my charity, but yes, exactly. Yeah. David, thank you again for your time. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Stacy. Thank you. This is really enjoyable.
This was definitely one of my favorite episodes, and I learned so much, and I bet you did too. And that guarantee of having more money in your pocket, well, it can only happen if you go and actually search to see if you have unclaimed funds due to you, a family member, or loved one. So make sure you do that. And if you have any questions about your long-term finances and whether you're on financial track, I encourage you to reach out to me. You can reach me at Stacy, STACY, at francisfinancial.com. We have a robust second opinion program where we can give you essentially a second opinion on your finances, whether that's your financial plan or reviewing your investment portfolio to see if you're on track and if it is invested appropriately for you and your goals. That is what we are here to do. So again, reach out to us at www.francisfinancial.com or my email, stacy@francisfinancial.com. And most importantly, continue to invest in yourself. And thank you for listening to Financially Ever After Widowhood. Thank you for tuning in to Financially Ever After Widowhood. If there's a question you'd love for us to answer on the podcast, we can do that for you. All you have to do is give us a call, and the number is 347-682-5580. Let me say that again, 347-682-5580. Whether you're working with an advisor or you're maybe doing it on your own, we invite you to reach out to us at www.francisfinancial.com, or you can email me at Stacy, STACY, at francisfinancial.com. Our hope is to be a resource for you to help you also find a great financial advisor, whether that be with our firm or one of our trusted colleagues. Please be sure to like, rate, and subscribe to the podcast, and join us next time on Financially Ever After Widowhood.